You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio, man. We are here once again. And man, today we have another awesome show lined up for y'all. We're going to talk to a motivational speaker, recording poet, and entrepreneur. He goes by Young CEO, The Plug. First and foremost, man, I just want to say, man, thank you for taking time in your schedule to come out today, man. How you doing?
I'm doing all right today. How y'all doing?
Man, we doing good, man. So we are going to talk about what it takes to be an entrepreneur. This is something that you've been doing for a while. You know what it takes. You're doing it. You're making it happen. Before we dive into today's topic, though, first, for the audience, kind of take us back, man. How did you get inspired to start your own brand, your own business? And if you had anybody who motivates you, mentors or whatever, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, so like I said before, I go by the name of Young CEO. And just to give you a little bit of background about myself, I am a 31-year-old entrepreneur. I've been in the industry about 4 years now. I actually started off about a decade ago in corporate, where I actually initially started building airplanes for a living for the company by the name of Boeing. And, you know, I did that for about 4 years, and then I kind of grew old and tired of it. You know, it just wasn't like a lot of room for growth mentally and financially. So then from there, I actually took a leap out on faith and took like an early retirement from corporate for a little bit and took a break for about 5-6 months. And then, you know, I found myself giving it a second chance again. And from there, you know, that's what actually brought me out to the city of San Antonio, Texas. And I began to start working on oil rigs as a supply chain engineer. So, you know, going from there, I did that for about a year. And, you know, I honestly didn't even realize what I was, you know, getting myself into when I took that actual job. And I said, you know, if I'm working 12 to 16 hours like this, you know, for somebody else, I could be putting that into my own business. So I would say about give or take 10 months into me actually, you know, starting that job, I actually went and, you know, took a leap out on faith to be able to start some passive income. And, you know, we started our own TV streaming company. And we actually was a TV mounting service. We did security cameras, you know, TV mounting, surround sound. You know, pretty much we were like the geek squad of Best Buy, but in our own trade. So we did that for about a year. And then, you know, after that, the pandemics hit. So just kind of like to give you a little background going into from that corporate job, you know, I ended up getting laid off. And to me, that was a sign like, you know, after even like the corporate job kind of didn't fall through for a full year, you know, I just went ahead and started my own business and, you know, just went full throttle with it. So, you know, some of the best advice I can give people, you know, going into entrepreneurship, like, you know, circumstances will happen that will push you to be able to push yourself to your fullest potential. And a lot of people, you know, they don't like to take risk out here. So, you know, that's one of the biggest things when you're starting any new business, you know, having a strong work ethic, of course. And I feel like it applies to, you know, the business world, because you can't just start something. You also have to be consistent as well. So, you know, anything that has to do with, you know, business related things, you definitely want to put yourself in position to win. And a lot of that is just a lot of commitment, a lot of consistency, and a lot of perseverance. So, you know, just me giving advice to like the up and coming entrepreneurs out here, definitely don't be scared to take that risk, because, you know, I tell people the greater the risk, the greater the reward. You know, and it's time to manifest that first class ticket on your flight, you know, to greatness where you're shortly about to board. So it's definitely a rewarding experience, you know, also being your own boss, you know, but at the same time, you have to be disciplined as well, because you don't have that same structure at a corporate job that somebody's telling you, hey, you got to get up, let's get on this van and go to work, or, hey, you got to get out your house and go in your car and drive to work. It's not the same way. You have to definitely, I tell people, like, you know, like what my parents used to tell me when I was growing up, they would say, what you put into something is what you get out. And I strongly believe that. And, you know, a lot of people talk about, strengths. And I tell people the strongest muscle in your body is your brain. And, once you begin to exercise that muscle in your body, then I feel like you can do anything. So, having a good mindset about things is very important when it comes down to, starting your own business. So, that's pretty much, so far as my introductory period, as far as my background, going from corporate, to starting my own passive income. And now currently, I've actually been able to open up other doors and opportunities for myself just from, taking that leap out on faith by, first starting my initial business with the TV streaming. And then from there, I started a real estate company where I started to basically be like a big time, real estate investor. And I started, small during the pandemic because, houses and things were going pretty under, and you can buy a lot of property for cheap, to make a bigger profit. So, I started initially out in the New York area, surprisingly, where I purchased my first 2 duplexes. And from there, I began to buy more property and I started to expand. So we're actually in the process of not only just purchasing homes domestically, but we also purchase international properties for like vacation rentals, Airbnbs. So we kind of cover the grand scheme of things between renting out to like low income Section 8 tenants. We also do like luxury Airbnb rentals, which is underneath the umbrella of Young CEO Rentals. And we also do international vacation homes as well. So, and then from our real estate company, that's when the brand of Young CEO became about, where, I've been recording currently as of this year, but I've been writing for about the last decade and some change. And, it just dawned on me that I felt like I wasn't tapping into my fullest potential in life and with my purpose or my passion in life. So I decided to, start taking my poetry and my craft serious. And I began to do like different motivational speaking engagements and just kind of encouraging, this youth and the generation that's coming not only behind me, but also in present day that, you're never too young to start being your own boss. So that's kind of how the name Young CEO came about. Because, at the end of the day, everybody wants to be their own boss, and they want to be able to control the narrative of what they do and, the kind of money they make. So with being a CEO, I tell people too much is given, much is required. So you definitely want to put yourself in a position to make sure that you're ready to tackle and handle those responsibilities that it come with. And it's kind of like buying a car. Like, you don't ever want to buy a car too expensive if you can't maintain the maintenance on that vehicle. So always, I tell people it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So it's one thing I learned in entrepreneurship, no matter how successful I am, that I'm steadily, gaining knowledge and steadily learning, because one person can never know too much, So I'm always getting educated on different things. And also, we also rolled out a clothing line as well by the name of Young CEO Apparel. And it kind of just gives individuals out here to be able to rock a brand with a meaningful purpose, knowing your passion and, just kind of getting out there to make them feel like they have the motivation to be able to rock something that is still like urban, like a designer brand, but also give them purpose. Like, hey, Young CEO is a catchy thing that I would like to be involved with one day. So, that's where we're at with it right now. And we just dropped the Life of an Entrepreneur album as well. So you'll be able to go check that out at www.youngceotheplug.com and just click album to check out my latest album on, basically the things that it will take to become an entrepreneur and the different trials and tribulations that I had to see on my journey to becoming where I'm at in present day.
And it sounds like you got a lot on your plate and a lot going on. And once again, listen to I Am Refocused Radio, talking to our guest for today, Young CEO. Go to his website, unceotheplug.com. I mean, everything you talked about, man, it sounds like you really are pushing yourself to do multiple things. And let's go back to the beginning of the process of you being your own boss and being the businessman, because like you said, it's a lot of responsibility and commitment that one has to take on in order for them to grow and become successful? For you, was it a state of mind like this is what I desire to have? Or was it more of a like this is what I have to do right now in order for me to see any results in the future? What was the mindset for you?
So, I mean, at the time, the mindset, was kind of like I had my back against the wall. So I think certain obstacles in my life kind of pushed me to be like, hey, I was basically trying to put myself back into the corporate life. But then at the same time, it's like, I tell people, like, you never know what you're good at unless you try it, and give it the opportunity when it presents itself. And, at the time, it was my season. I was coming off of a 6-figure corporate job. And, I thought that was like my fullest potential as far as that was a dream. Like, hey, I just want to make 6 figures on a corporate job. And, that was it. But then, after that, I began to actually like tap into my craft and perfect it. And I actually didn't even realize how good of a salesman I was until I actually started, actually pushing my product, because, life make you do some, it definitely brings out the best version of you, and being with the lifestyle and the kind of lifestyle I inspired to have, it also kind of pushed me to become, a better person as an entrepreneur. And being that I didn't really have like no real mentors or people telling me like, hey, go do this, go do that, or hey, you need to wake up. I knew within myself that I had roles and responsibilities that I needed to make sure be disciplined enough to attack different things a certain way. So I tell people all the time, like, without commitment, you'll never start, but, without consistency, you'll never finish. So just having that sense of discipline, work ethic, I tell people all the time, like, time management is a very big deal when, growing your business and being an entrepreneur, because you should want to work with some type of sense of urgency. Because I see a lot of people say, hey, I want to start a business, and 6 months later, they're in the same place that they were when they first start talking about it. So I don't see a lot of people executing. It's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to be about it. So I'm definitely a man of action and results, So I tell people to look at the situation and apply a task, and then have an affirmative action so you can get a positive result. So I use the same methods that I would use when I would interview for corporate jobs, but just within my own business, because it worked for me. And I think it would work for everybody else. And just people just build up a certain level of courage, tenacity to be able to get out there and grind, to be able to, basically see the results that they're looking for. A lot of people see a finished product and be like, well, man, how did you get there? But a lot of people not willing to put in the work. I tell people like all the time, like, well, they say, well, this is not working, or that's not working for me. Well, I tell them, like, are you hustling? Are you working hard? Are you sacrificing sleep? You sacrificing time? I mean, it's a lot that goes with it. Success is not comfortable. A lot of people think that it's comfortable because, they see the end product of like, oh man, they're out on the beach having a good time. They're on vacation. It takes a lot of sacrifice, to get to success. And I tell people, like, without struggle, there's no progress. So a lot of my journey consisted of a lot of sacrifice and a lot of struggles, a lot of obstacles. Like, every day was a new day. Every day was another struggle. But, I think keeping a positive mindset and telling yourself that you won't give up, that's the biggest key thing. Like, you can start something great, but the day you give up is the day you failed yourself tremendously. Like, definitely finishing the race strong is, one of those things I tell people is very essential in the game, because you don't want to start something just not to finish it, So that's why I'm very big on the whole thing about consistency, because consistency it seems to get more people's attention. It's kind of like being a rapper. Like, they have a lot of great rappers that done came out, but how many of them stay consistent? So I think consistency is what gives people, attention. It draws a lot of traction to you, and it makes you, be basically memorable to securing your legacy and your brand.
And when you mentioned the word consistency, I really like that, because there's a lot of excuses available for people out there who are not serious about whatever their passion is or what their idea for the brand is or whatever, just as an individual person. But it's also being consistent in the right things versus being consistent in the wrong things. For you as an individual in the early stages of branding yourself, what did it take for you to get past the bad days where things were slow, when it felt like the brand wasn't growing as fast as you wanted? What did it take for you to say, you know what, no, I'm going to still keep pushing because this is what I believe?
All right. Well, I mean, one of the biggest things I remember, I'm going to take you back to 2019. And I remember, like, you know, just seeing results. Like, you know, it's only so many no's that you can take until one yes is around the corner. So I think just me personally, you know, I had a lot of days where people think like, oh, man, you know, they tell you yes all the time. Like, nah, I really had to take like 7 no's just to get one yes. So it's one of them things where, like, you know, networking with people when it comes down to, you know, pushing myself, being confident in myself, you know, waking up with a good sense of head on my shoulder and letting people know, like, hey, I will not be denied, but I'll be slightly delayed. So like I said, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So it might not come when I want it, but it's always on time. So when it came down to, like, you know, just seeing like how the business was running, you know, I'll tell you, like, one of the most troubling situations that I had as an entrepreneur was that I think everybody know we went through a pandemic in, you know, about mid to early 2020. And I was just kind of, you know, feeling defeated because it's like, well, how can I market and, you know, promote my product? You know, people was getting laid off of jobs. So it's like, how will consumers have money to spend with me when little did I know everybody was at home? So I actually made more money in the 3-month lockdown than I had probably in a whole year. So, you know, people tell me I'm a firm believer in God, and, you know, he told me that you will exceed expectations. You know, you'll do your best when you least expect. And as long as you walking by faith and not by sight, you know, I think everything, you know, will be all right. So I'm a real firm believer of making sure that, you know, I put the man above first to make sure that, you know, whatever his plan is for me, you know, plays out how it's supposed to. Because sometimes my plan is not his plan. So I definitely appreciate, you know, having that good spiritual background and also having just the work ethic, the drive behind it. Because a lot of people say, like, man, you're so talented at this. I say, hey, this is not my talent. This is just a God-given talent that he's using me as a vessel to be able to lead by example. And I think that's one of the biggest things, like coming from a corporate job to an entrepreneur. If you would have told me this about 10 years ago that, hey, you would be your own boss, I would have thought you was lying, just because of like how I thought. I was in the mentality of, I never want to be a manager. I don't want to be this type of leader. I was more of a follower. And the day that I think it's a disease that people have instilled in their heads that they think that they can't lead until they try it. And a lot of people work ethics, and they seem to just get thrown off when it comes down to, I just want to be able to come to a job. It's easy. I don't want to have to deal with the headaches, the politics, the personalities. And little do you know, a lot of that is all a part of, taking your next level or boss to the next level. Like a lot of these things you're going to have to encounter at some point if you want to be the best at what you are in your industry. So I think it's more of like a preference thing, just like letting people know, like, hey, how bad do you want it? How great do you want to be? Do you want to be mediocre or do you want to be great? Do you want to be good or do you want to be bad? So I think it just really all comes down to, how bad you really want it, to actually answer your question in its full entirety. When it came down to me having bad days and how did I overcome them, I wanted to be great. I wanted to be the best at what I do. And, a lot of people don't keep that competitive edge. Like, even though it's like your biggest competitor is yourself, because only you can make yourself or give yourself that internal motivation to go out and do it. As much as I might preach or motivate to somebody, you have to want it bad enough for yourself.
Yeah. And people, when they start getting success and start seeing the results of their work ethic and going through those different levels of mentality and having the mindset expand versus shrink over time. You mentioned that you didn't have a whole lot of people kind of showing the way. You kind of just went out there and you just did it. You just kind of learned the ropes as you went by. What was some of the greatest feedback that you've gotten from clients and people that worked with you in order for you to continue to expand your influence with your brand?
Gotcha. So, yeah, I mean, one of my biggest feedbacks that I got, like, I would do a lot of work and wouldn't get compensated for it. But I knew just being able to get like those compliments, like, hey, you have, great customer service, or, just kind of like going above and beyond outside of my job role. Even though I wasn't being rewarded, in a monetized level for doing the level of customer service I was doing, it was a representation of my brand. And, just being able to be a great leader for somebody, and putting people in positions to win. I went from basically making six figures to basically paying my employees six figures. So that was like a big deal, because that's something that I never thought that I saw myself doing. So the fact that I was in a position to be able to do that, it was more of a rewarding experience for me, because it wasn't so much of me making the money. It was more of me watching somebody else and position them to making the money. That made me feel very accomplished. It made me feel like, I was of some influence on my community and people around me, and, helping them basically provide for their families and, basically taking care of their homes. So that's when I knew at that point that, it's crazy how entrepreneurship and like motivational speaking kind of go in the same lane. And just being able to have that gift to be able to talk to the people and be a voice to be heard, because they have a lot of entrepreneurs out here that do well, but they're not able to tell their story, and that's one of the biggest things that I'm pushing toward, as far as telling my story in a poetic way where, the society and the environment these days can actually understand and receive it a certain way to basically fall in suit to be able to be their own boss and their own entrepreneur and get out of that bubble that they're just sitting in or being stuck in.
I really like those words, because it's one thing, like you said in the interview, to mention that this is something you want to do or you quote unquote gonna do, but it's totally different until you execute and actually live by your words. You seem like someone who really has found their purpose and found their passion for, your brand, your businesses. Now that you are building your empire, so to speak, what's the most important thing you can tell someone who aspires to be an entrepreneur that they must focus on if they want to win in the long term?
I mean, I tell people, like, on one of my shirts, I will tell you that on one of the shirts that we have on our Young CEO Designer apparel, I tell them that they have to respect the grind. They can't cheat the process. They have to show some type of courage and tenacity, because it takes a lot of courage to be able to get out there, to talk to a lot of strangers and basically approach a situation with something brand new. And then also I tell people to also have, like, just trust the process. Like, if you believe in yourself and have enough confidence to go out there and do what you have to do. And, so many people are so worried about being judged, and you can't be worried about what the next man or the next woman is saying about you. They have a lot of jealousy and envy that exists out here in our society. So, if one person is doing something, they might look at it like, oh, you have a lot of pressure coming down on you, because people are very doubtful. And little do you know, I tell people, like, you definitely can't skip the process. Definitely got to work hard and grind, definitely got to gain your respect out here in these streets, because a lot of people tend to lose focus on what respect is when it comes down to like respecting a brand, respecting a business, and, just showing honor to the people that went out there and, worked hard to be able to create something for us to live by. And last but not least is I tell people, like, you have to start a legacy. And the only way you're going to start that legacy is by you first have to start. Like, if you don't start, you'll never know what you're missing out on. So, I tell people just trust the process. In time, everything heals. And, I even seen that for myself, that, like, I'm not in the same place I was 4 years ago when I first started. I've been able to acquire a lot of different businesses that I thought I would never be able to do. And, I'm still continuing for greatness. And, I tell one of my biggest lines I say is that you don't have to be great to start, but you got to start to be great. So I live by that famous quote, that I write on my poetic vibes. And, I feel like if that's one of the things that, you feel like if you're not great, well, then you got to start to be great.
Once again, listen to I Am Refocused Radio, talking to our guest today, Young CEO. You can go to his website, youngceotheplug.com. Man, appreciate you taking time, your skills talking to us today. But real quick, how can people follow you online, and is there any recent projects you want to talk about real quick as far as music or anything like that?
Okay, so yeah, you can definitely follow me at, like I said, on Instagram as Young CEO _talk to them. You can also visit my website to not only shop my Young CEO apparel, which is www.youngceotheplug.com. You can also go and book luxury Airbnb rentals that I offer. And you can also go in to download and purchase my latest album, Life of an Entrepreneur. So as far as my music, I'll share a little piece with y'all from one of my albums just to kind of get you all motivated on today, and to kind of give you a recipe of what to expect on my latest album. And I give to you today track number 1 from my latest album, and I call it Life of an Entrepreneur. I wake up to exercise the brain, to ask the question, what's on your mind? The royalties of a paradise. Waking up to a young CEO in the mirror is the answer to the question that you will find. You don't have to be great to start, but you got to elevate your conscience to be great. Be the individual that swallows their pride, to take a humble stand that is guilty by faith. Not to whom much is given, much is required. Lead by example, no 9 to 5, put the work in. Chris Brown, to never grow tired. Challenge mentally to test your weaknesses when pressure is applied. Never be the closed mouth that didn't get fed due to the lack of support in this game. Only a few survive. Now make your next move on this yellow brick road. Wizard of Oz, your best move. Be your own boss, to call the shots, to take the risk with the confidence that you will never lose. Hustler's ambition is a characteristic that most take for granted when you live in the life of a boss. Always remain hungry and never become complacent. And listen, you willing to man up and pay the cost. Mansions and foreign cars, the fruits of my labor of an enticing pleasure. Call me Eddie Murphy, I stay in this lab, I run this nutty professor. Work hard, play hard is a motivational purpose to get into this bag. From the snow patrol Porsche to the exotic orange Lambo, I only got 99 problems, but I ain't the one to brag. Because my work ethic is like no other, that most risk the chance of a slip and fall. When obstacles are thrown at me, I'm like, Kobe, just pass me the ball. Michael Johnson, like the 1996 Olympics, I keep a pair of gold spikes. Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, a punch with some power, I never back away from a fight. And I'm something like Tiger Woods because I keep one in the hole. Never gotta count my money backwards because I stay with a cash flow on my bankroll. Motivational speaking like I'm Dr. Martin Luther King. Never scared of changes with the possibilities of the future may bring. And I quarterback this field like I'm in my rookie contract, Tom Brady. Buying up real estate like an exploration in third world countries like I'm living next to Haiti. I play this lifestyle we call entrepreneurship like a pro in the game, to achieve the highest recognition in the flesh and to entrepreneurs of Hall of Fame. And I ain't gonna be the one to complain, because hard work is a task and it's not supposed to come easy. Count down my days to my network is like an 8-figure residual. Shout out to my boy Yeezy. For I'm a flesh driven only by a functional brain, pouring out my resources and knowledge to be heard through my voice while maintaining capital gains. blessings on blessings. I thank the man above me that brings out the best version in me to continue in my zone. Now rest in peace to the legends that paved the way for me to grow, to be continued and stay strong. And I call it life of an entrepreneur.
I know one thing, that's something that you play right before you just get up and start working, man. Like, I like that. That's dope, man.
Man, appreciate it.
How once again, someone listeners right now, how can they get that album real fast?
Again, you can go on my website at www.youngceotheplug.com and go straight to the album tab and click purchase. And we'll be soon streaming on all platforms, on Spotify, Apple Music, real soon. So y'all go check me out on my website to kind of get a good background of what y'all be looking forward to.
And once again, I want to say thanks to Young CEO being on the show with I Am Refocused Radio, man. Appreciate your time.
All right.